Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. We're going to take a quick look at Keeper, and just before we do, we typically look at Bitcoin first, but I can kind of summarize really quick. It's pretty much just trending between 64 and 65,000 right now. It dipped all the way down to like 62,000 and some change, but 63 to 65 is kind of the current channel that it's kind of stuck within, right? So we could see a break to the upside this weekend. You know, weekends are typically more green than weekdays in that sense, and a little less volatile. Or correction, more volatile because less volume, but that volatility is kind of gone because all the whales are gone too. It's an interesting thing, but weekends are traditionally better to the upside. So hoping for that to continue to increase, as we can see with the prices kind of relaxed and calmed down a little bit. It's slowly on the mend. Okay, so that's where we're at there. So looking here at Keeper, big picture, it's obviously done a lot of movement, right? I mean, we can kind of look here. I don't think this is the original one, if I'm not mistaken. There was a few different charts, but OKEX is essentially, it's been around for a while, so this has been roughly about a year's worth of data, so it's definitely good. But simply put, it's obviously increased a lot, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it was just introduced to Binance, but generally speaking, we're looking at about a 500% increase. I'm guessing this was the news here, and of course, today and yesterday was the actual, Binance ICO, or at least, offering it to a new exchange. So that being said, kind of standard stuff here. Most of the traditional indicators are not going to be very relevant considering the fact we had such a significant increase. So we'll kind of dive into some of the more momentous indicators here today, kind of see what that looks like. But RSI is well over 70. It's probably going to stay there for some time, even if we do retrace for a few days here. So that really doesn't help us too much. On the 4-hour chart, we could probably see a very similar scenario. Yep, where the price actually dipped down into the 60 range, but now we're back up around 75, 80. So pretty standard, basically just telling us that we had a pretty strong increase here today, nice recovery, and that was likely once the exchange, I believe, opened with Binance here recently. I think that was today, as a matter of fact. So that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other stuff, see if there's anything else that we can extract. The 1-hour chart is probably going to be our best bet here. What we'll do is we'll take a quick look at the cloud. As we can see, the price broke into the cloud, stayed within, and never went below. So this is a very good sign. Oftentimes, and I get this question a lot, how does the cloud work? In other words, which one's more important, the top or the bottom lead? Basically, it's considered lead 1 or lead 2. Both are equally as important. Ultimately, for breakouts, you probably want to try to anticipate the break above, of course, and obviously for a short break below. But generally speaking, when it's within the cloud, it's still considered a support. So both lines work effectively as a support level. It's kind of like a support channel that works relative to the previous price action. So good stuff though. Yeah, honestly, this is good here. We like to see that is working as a support that held the price action up. And then looking at what TD sequential, we're probably right close to a 9. Yep, there it is. Look at that. Let's get a bigger picture here for you. You can see, yeah, we count all the way up to a 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now we're actually in this overtime here. So for lack of better terms, in most cases, you're supposed to see a consolidation / retracement following the 9. Right now, lately I've noticed with all these bullish trends, these strong momentous pushes, it almost doesn't matter in a sense. And what I mean by that is that it'll push way past a 9 when it just continues upwards right now. Because obviously this is going up probably because people are investing in it within Binance, and it's just kind of driving the price action further. That's where a fundamental catalyst is causing a kind of a somewhat of an anomaly. I wouldn't say it's irregular, but it's less common for the price to go past a 9. So with being this right here, we could see it continue up higher. And I did draw these Fibonacci retracement lines just before I pulled up the chart. And I put it at the most recent lowest point. And also too, people are always asking, where do I put it? Well, it's the most recent lowest, the most recent low, and then obviously the most recent high. So that's kind of where you do on the upside. The inverse applies as well. If you're going to say down and you're trying to anticipate how low it'll go, you do the highest and then down to the lowest. Anyways, that being said, that's what I drew up here, right? So looking at the Fibonacci retracement lines, we can see there's pretty strong resistance level right around 1832. So my speculation is the price will possibly continue to test that and potentially break to the upside, or the inverse, of course, it'll come back down. And I know it seems kind of redundant, but when price goes like this and we have this kind of push, the best thing you can do is add or just kind of keep moving your stop losses higher as it gets closer to its goal. So obviously before you took this trade, you set a target, right? Any good trader will set a target before they get into a trade. So if your target was to get to 1832, then you probably should have taken your profits, right? You should have set 3 profit targets before you got in. I recommend trading bots for that because that helps a lot. We use Cornix in our trading community, but I can tell you that three commas is a very good alternative to that. But generally speaking, you set 3 profit targets and you have a trailing stop loss. So always move your stops up with your price as it progresses, right? So that being said, hypothetically you took entry just now and you want to get to 1832, you set your target there, but you do just below. In other words, anytime you have a Fibonacci retracement line, you want to set your target just prior to that. That's the kind of the key takeaway there. I think that's like a pro tip you could say, because most people put their stops at exact lines. You don't want to do that because the industry leaders are doing that, right? They're going to take their profits there, and a lot of times you don't get filled because they have so much more priority, so to speak. So keep that in mind. Always set your targets just beforehand. But let's just go ahead and enough waffling around here. Let's just talk about what the best case scenario would be for this if it's just say this continue happens, right? Because we did see that with Sandbox, we saw it with KDA, we saw it with quite a few others. Mana, their first ramp up was very significant, and what it did is it went past the 9 on TD sequential and went all the way up to like 18, even though it doesn't count up, right? It had an extra 9 candles. So realistically, we shouldn't expect this to continue, but if it does, and just say we get a best case scenario, we're going to be looking at, hold on, I made that a little too big. We're looking at roughly in the range of about 2785. So 2,785 would be a best case scenario on this run, and that could possibly happen within the next 12 to 24 hours. Now, I'm not somebody that's going to hype this up, and me being more conservative, I would say you better darn well take your profits now while you still can, because the likelihood of it continuing upwards right now without retracement is pretty low. Because why don't we just take a look at its history really quick. Now, granted, it didn't do a whole heck of a lot because it kind of slowly eked up. But if you can see back here, you see a 9, right? Counts up to a 9. Then it consolidated for about 4 to 6 hours, and then it ramped up and continued. So it has a history of never passing 9 on the momentum, right? So in other words, we rarely see more than 9 hours of consistent bullish momentum from this coin. That being said, I'm just going to speculate the price will probably start to kind of calm down right around 1650, and it'll probably work itself into this channel here between what, 1475 and 1650. That'd be my guess. But ultimately, we don't truly know where it's going to go. But the bottom line is that if you are smart and you're wise and you're a good trader, you're going to take profits while you can, especially if you're 5, 10, 20x. That just makes sense. Trying to squeeze out an extra couple X's doesn't necessarily help anyone. Don't get me wrong, sure, you'll get lucky sometimes, but for the most part, if you average it out, you'll likely lose more than you gain trying to get the most out of it, right? You can never find the top, you can never truly find the bottom. So, it's that in between that matters the most, right? And I think good traders are those who are able to identify, a trend, of course. The trend is your friend, and it's important to get out before that trend goes south. So with this very long candlestick up here, it's just one of those things where it's going to be turning around. That's my personal opinion, right? So just keep in mind, there's definitely a lot of factors involved, but I think that you want to be safe and take your profits while you still can. So to my community members that are watching this, just know it may continue upwards, but it shouldn't go that much further. The key here that I like to do, my strategy, is to wait until I see the 9. Obviously set some alerts so that way I get a notification. So maybe set an alert at about 1500, and then also at about 1375. The next major support levels, and see the price comes back down, then you can add to your position, right? And if you want to keep Keeper for a while, right? You say you want to hold on to it. That's all well and good. Maybe trim some of your position, take 20, 30, 40, 50% off the top right now while it's still high, and then add to your position if it comes back down. Most coins come back down eventually. And in this case here, it's been on the overextended side, because keep this in mind, right? We saw this. This is a 500% increase from bottom to top in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. 5 trading days, 500%. Right? That's an average of 100 per day, and there's no way that you can continue that kind of momentum without any type of correction. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Yes, we had a correction recently, but that doesn't give us full reign to just go balls to the wall for the next 48 hours, right? Anyways, so something to consider. I just like to try to educate and help you, get perspective here. Not to say this will happen. It could very well keep going up. That I've been wrong a few times before, but you know what? You're never wrong if you're taking profits. There's nothing wrong with that. So just make sure you don't get too greedy. And if you're a diamond hand holder, that's perfectly fine. You want to keep Keeper forever, hold on to it. That's all good. you're trying to make money in this industry, you want to be able to take profits while you still can. So that's just my friendly advice there. And just note, if you were to consider joining my Patreon community, my trading community, we teach that. I make sure that I work directly with all of my students, if you will, and we all make sure that we are learning and growing together. And I share every single signal, basically every trade that I take as a signal where you can one-click follow if you'd like. So awesome, awesome situation. Check that out in your own time. Of course, we registered through the the Cornix, Cornix, not Cornish, through the Cornix exchange, and you can check that out too, cornix.io. But hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks so much for your time. We look forward to seeing the next one. Take care.